Hello, I'm Jeramiah Gill, and welcome to episode 49 of the Something Newsy podcast. Today, Sharay, Dom, and Valerio will be joining me. We'll be discussing how to balance mental wellness with work, school, and life. And for some of us, this is a very poignant topic. It's kind of challenging to get us here to this episode today, huh? All right, so let's get into introductions. Why are you guys here? What are you doing in this journalism class? And, what are you guys looking to get out of it?
Okay, I'll go first.
Ladies first?
Yes. Well, for me, I think there is nothing more honorable than people feeling like they can trust me enough to tell their stories.
Gotcha.
So once I decided to get into journalism, and I felt like to be trusted with that was such an honor. So that's what brought me to journalism studies.
All right, cool. Well, I'm Dom. Why I decided to do the journalism, I was at another university in Georgia for communication. So I'm into photography, videography, and just kind of the whole editing process. So just being able to get this under my belt, it adds to my repertoire. So I guess from the journalism course, what I'm looking to get from it is just learning how to, just better write and tell stories, tell stories of the world. So.
Mm-hmm.
How's it going, guys? My name is Valerio. I've always had a lot of interest in writing and have a lot of wide range of interests. So as a journalist, you're able to write about a lot of different things, whether it be a murder happening down the street or whether it's a record release of an album. And so it kind of fulfills a lot of those interests that I have. And it's also, if you're a very curious person, it definitely is a good job for that because, you have to do a lot of research. And so you're learning a lot as you go and you do. And as well, of course, a lot of people look to you to be informed and see what's interesting and what's, what do people want to know? What are people thinking about? What are people wanting to see? Because not everybody can go out into the world and experience everything that there is going on. And so our jobs as journalists is to tell people what's going on in the world that they should know. And so, that's what brought me to journalism.
All right, well, fantastic. So let's get into the topic today, mental wellness and balancing work-school life. How are you guys doing on balancing the work-school life and your mental wellness right now?
You know what's funny? Dom and I were just having this conversation walking into this podcast today because I said, I'm not going to go to class tomorrow because I'm just not feeling it. I'm not feeling my best. And then I told Dom, I said, I feel really guilty about that. And he was like, no, you shouldn't feel guilty about that. We all deserve a moment to say, you know what, I'm not feeling my best right now, and I'm just going to take a day to myself. And so I think that having that realization that, you know what, I am important enough to stop for a second and take a beat. You have to remember that, and I think that's really important. So that helps me, just remembering to take a beat.
Yeah.
Just to piggyback off of what she said, I always just have the thought, just if any of us in this room or in the world were to cease to exist at any moment, right, life will go on, right? Mm-hmm. So when we take a pause for ourselves, I think that's very, very important because at the end of the day, what's going on is going to continue to go on. So we just have to sometimes take that pause in a moment, and like she was saying, if you're not feeling up to it, I think it's important to just take that step back. Whatever, however long that looks, or whatever that looks like, whether that's you going to do something creative, you going to the beach, the park, whatever, you eating your favorite food. I think it's just important to self-care. Self-care is the message, and even, like I said, even with going to school and things like that, it's going to be here, you know what I'm saying? As long as you don't get too far behind, just take some time to yourself, so.
I agree. I mean, I think to encapsulate what everybody's kind of trying to say is that I think life is a balancing act. And so if you're trying to balance all these different elements of your life, whether it be work, school, your love life, your family, your friends. And so unfortunately, as you're balancing all these things, you do too much of one or too little of another. And so you have to see, maybe I have to do a little more of this or a little less of that. And maybe I'm just too stressed out to go to school tomorrow. And so I've done too much of that. So now I have to do more of this. And so you kind of have to sit back and take a hard look at yourself like whether it's just standing naked in front of the mirror, like, hey, I've been eating too much. Look how that's just one example. It's just one example of taking a hard look at yourself. Like one example is like you go naked, go in front of a mirror, and say, look, I'm fat. I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I feel. That's a hard look to take for yourself, and to realize I've been eating too much or I've been not exercising enough, and so you're starting to confront all your imbalances. And so you can apply this to anything, whether it being too much school, too little school, or what have you. I think just in general, if you can apply that understanding, I think you can find your own imbalances. Yes.
Priorities are important.
That takes taking a hard look at yourself to a new level, though, bro. That is next level. Like, I mean, I thought it was an introspection. I didn't go like, let's just, get in our birthday suit and go, like, man, how do I, bro? That's
But
next
you know what?
level.
I like that.
That's quite
I like
interesting.
that.
That's a physical way.
I mean, hey, if that works, all right. So, what are you guys balancing in your work school life right now that's kind of keeping you at a place where you feel like this is an important topic?
So, okay, I'll go first. Right now, I'm actually struggling with this right now. So I'm going to work and school, and I'm also like going to New York City next week, and for 8 days, and I have to I'm trying to keep up with all of them. And not just that, there's other things, but those are the main ones. And like I find myself like, oh man, I have to plan for this trip, because if I don't, I'm going to spend all this money and for it to be lackluster and to put all the effort. But then I have to keep up with my schooling and do the homework. And let's be honest, not everything about school we like and are motivated about. So some things we have to use more force, apply more force to get ourselves to do. And that's, I find, the hard part. Obviously, the things that we like to do and enjoy to do are easy to do. They don't take that much willpower. But I think this is where the balancing act really becomes difficult, when you're up against a resistance and you're like, man, I know like this is kind of boring. I don't really like it, but I know I have to do it to get where I want to go. And that's where I'm struggling, where I'm like, man, I still have to do all this research for New York City, but then I still have to do like all these interviews and research about like my other journalistic pieces and homework for this other class, and and I can delve even deeper, and say like personally, I'm struggling with my love life, and so I'm pursuing different people. And that comes with its own wave of pain.
That's its own thing for sure.
I mean, Jesus Christ. Bro, having to deal with like
do a whole episode on that.
Just on that, just on the dating.
Yeah, that might be the next one for real.
Just on the dating life and relationships.
Dating nowadays.
Whew. And so having to deal with like all the things that are going on in your life, and still finding a balance between all of them is difficult, especially things you don't really like to do. And finding support when you're feeling at your lowest, I feel like that's kind of the most important. I'm not sure, is the question just straight up about,
We'll get there. This is just like
little by little. Okay, because I was just about to go on a rant. I was literally back on a rant.
Let's work it. So, what are you balancing?
So, with me, I would say just the schoolwork, and also just trying to be there for myself and others. This is like my third semester, and just like back to back. So I was in school the spring semester. I took summer classes, and then been right back into school again. So just that transition, and then also moving from cross country from Georgia to California in August. Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah. So moving cross country, I'm just still tired, and I'm like, my body's still recovering from that. But I know I can't stop, because we got assignments doing, our Chicano class. We have to do articles with, the journalism class, take pictures, make sure you're meeting your minimum amount of hours every week. So it's difficult, and sometimes I just I've missed class a couple of times just because like things have happened, car stuff have happened. Like I know I was like last Thursday, I caught a flat coming here. So it's just like, what I'm saying, just kind of like balancing all of that stuff without feeling too, without feeling bad and beating yourself up, because life is going to happen. So life is going to happen. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think you guys said it. For me, I think we're all due for transfer here shortly. And so this is the hardest I have ever in my life gone in school. so that I can have a high enough GPA to transfer to, one of my top schools, but also at the same time, to go to what you said, my life is just taking a complete 180. To get a little personal with y'all, I am going through a separation with my husband, and then I had to move in an instant, and then I have still, deadlines, and all of these things are steadily moving and coming, and you have no choice but to move and go with them, because what else are you gonna do? It's a pivot. It's a pivot, because if you don't, then you get left behind, or but I am proud to report that I am holding an A in all of my classes. All of the shit that I have going on right now.
There you go.
But I've been able to continue to hold an A with everything that is going on in life, because I've been able to balance, like you guys have said.
There you go. Well, we all go through tough times. I know what it was like when I was going through my separation. It was definitely challenging, life-changing. But, to get into it, we'll get into it a little bit more later. But I wasn't good with my mental health. My life was out of balance. I was 265. I've lost 70 pounds since I was.
I wouldn't even.
Congratulations.
I turned my life upside down. I got hard with like all this stuff in my life: mental health, physical health, everything.
So it's a triangle, right? It's your spiritual, you got your physical, and if one is off, it's a balancing night, right? So
yeah. So I think I'm a little bit of a tough guy. So in the middle of all that, I was like, let me come off of like antidepressants for depression. Let me get my life together and all this. And it was tough because, she took my kids out of state and it was challenging. But, in all of that, I found a way to cope. I found a way to work through it. And that's why like a topic like this is really relevant, and it hits home. So let's talk about, what ways have you guys tried to manage your work-life balance? What has worked? What has not worked for y'all?
For me, I think what I try to do is just try to continue to do things I love, regardless of the time constraints we may have. That's one thing I learned when I was share with you guys. I was in the Navy. I was a corpsman. I worked in the mental health field. I worked on the inpatient ward for 3 years. So when I used to teach groups, but I would tell people, even in the midst of you going through things, still try to do things you love, because it keeps you kind of grounded and in a place where you can continue to push forward. And just knowing that the bad times don't always last. That's another important thing to know. So just with me, I just, like I said, just try to continue to do things I love, whether that's creating music, going to the park, even if I got stuff to do, you know what I'm saying? I know it's going to get done, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's going to get done. So that's for me.
Yeah, me personally, of course, we could just go on and say, like, kind of the more generic response would be, yeah, I work too much, so I work less now, or, if I'm, gaining weight and I lose weight. But just to be frank and to the point, the most effective things that I've done to restore my mental health, not just overall life balance, but I would say specifically my mental health, by far the most effective things were going to therapy and meditation. I find even if I don't pay for therapy, I'm lucky. I'm on government benefits because I'm low income, and so I don't have to pay for therapy. But even like the times when I didn't have therapy, you can, because a lot of people, when you talk about things like I can't afford it, so they just kind of throw that idea away. But some of us have friendships and families who have the ability to actually. What's the word? I'm not going to say therapize, but they have the ability to help you to speak in a manner in which can help you heal. So even though your friends and your family aren't therapists, but if they're willing to listen to you, will listen to your deepest pains, I think that's 80% of therapy. Yeah, of course, you also want solutions. You also want solutions, of course, but I think that's the easier part. It's easier to just look up what is the solution instead of finding somebody who's willing to sit there and listen to you. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a professional therapist. It could be your friend. It could be your dad. It could be whoever. You can find somebody you can talk to consistently. You can divulge all the things that are affecting you. I think finding somebody to talk to, or therapist, and meditation. By far, meditation. I cannot think of anything else. Because not only it helps you to understand how your mind works. And so once you understand how it works, you have a better way of knowing let's say you have a thought or a feeling, a very dark thought and a feeling. Well, if you understand how your mind works, you understand that those thoughts and your feelings aren't necessarily you.
Yep.
So you don't have to attach yourself to these thoughts and feelings. So I'm doing a piece on suicide, and a very common thing is having intrusive thoughts of like, oh, you should go kill yourself. You should go jump off that bridge. And a lot of people will take their thoughts as if they'll personalize them. They'll say, oh, this is me. Like, I want to kill myself. They don't understand that their thoughts and their feelings may not necessarily reflect them as a person. And so if you find a way to be less attached, if you're overly attached, let's say, to your thoughts, and you have a lot of dark thoughts and feelings, that you can just kind of like a cloud in the sky. It comes and then it goes. It comes and let it pass like a passing wind. But a lot of the time, the mind has the tendency to, when a thought or a feeling comes in, to grab onto it.
Hold on to it.
Because this is me. This is me. Why would I be thinking this if I didn't truly believe it? But we always have thoughts and feelings that do not reflect who we are or what we want. And so it's important to know, to learn to meditate, and to, just kind of use that to your advantage.
Well, meditation is
really good.
meditation. It is
that's
good. Meditation is powerful. So they've done studies on Navy SEALs and Marines that if they practice mindfulness, breath control, the SEALs do this thing called box breathing. They breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, drop for 4, hold it for 4, and they do this. They get into flow state. Well, they've done studies that show that it reduces the risk of getting PTSD. They operate better under pressure, and their biology is a lot better. Like the stress affects your body biologically. It affects you in a lot of ways. You were talking about talk therapy. Talk therapy is powerful. I mean, just having somebody to talk to is 80% of it, like you said. That's everything. Anybody else got anything to share on things that worked? And
for me, moving my body, even if it's just walking my dogs, right? But I prefer to do something a little bit more rigorous. Even if I don't want to go, I make myself go. You know what I mean? And then when I'm in the thick of it, I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna leave it on the floor. I'm here. I'm gonna leave it on the floor, right? And then I leave, and I'm like, oh, I'm glad that I showed up. I showed up for myself. And then what I'm feeling in here is no longer in there anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's a physical release. Yeah. That I then feel internally. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the issue.
So when you do physiological activity, it releases endorphins. It's the feel good things, and once you get those endorphins pumping, like this is one of the things I was going to bring. Exercise is medicine. Like physical activity, whether it's walking, running, going to the gym, martial arts, whatever it is, you got to break a sweat. Once you break that sweat, it kind of resets your biology, makes you feel better, kind of gives you that peace, centers you. Did you have anything to add on, tools that were working for you, or
like I said, I just create creativity. Like I said, I go produce, do music. I think that's another key. Like you said, you had the kind of like the your meditation, you had the physical, but I also think having a hobby that you enjoy and that you can kind of like get lost in to take away from the stress is very, very important. Whether that's, like I said, music, drawing, painting, anything like that. So I think from all three aspects, it comes in together to make it where you can relieve that stress, you know what I'm saying? So that's mine right there, just the creativity. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I do want to add to what you said though about a hobby, because some people will say, oh, I don't have any hobbies. Yeah. But I think the beauty in that is being able to find out what it is that you enjoy doing. Yeah, so then you can just so now you can just go out and try a bunch of different things, and you might hate one thing and love the other. But it's just putting yourself out there to do that. So I think that's really important. And then my last point about movement is that movement is free. Because people will try to. Yes, and I know this, speaking from my own experience. I'll be like, oh, I don't have a gym membership. I can't go. Where am I going to go? You don't need to go anywhere. Just go outside. Go. Just move your feet. That's it.
I agree. The mind and body are connected. That's a great point.
one is off.
Yeah, talking about moving feet, or getting outside. Like there's a couple physical activities I do that I know releases endorphins that gets me going. Hiking, paddleboarding, anything physical activity. I gotta be out doing that every weekend. I gotta be out because that's what keeps me centered, keeps me feeling good. All right, we did so good on this episode that we ended up having to break this into a two-parter. We covered a lot of really good topics. And so what I want you to do is go ahead and tune in for the second part of this on our next episode. Promise you it's something you don't want to miss. Keep your eye out. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in. And I want to thank Sharay, Dom, and Valerio for participating in today's episode. Thanks for listening to Something Newsy podcast, and we'll see you in the future here.
Yeah. Woo!
What?
That was good.